Hi, everyone. Sorry. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Oxford, and welcome to the Maison Française. I'm Bary, and it's really great to see all of you here. We've got really a lot of visitors coming from all over, and a lot of young students. And I think there's possibly one reason for that, which might be the Nash equilibrium, which influenced many of us in our thinking, in our writing, and throughout our life. But probably the main reason is an amazing lineup of speakers. So I want to thank all of the speakers, and we're really looking forward to hearing from you. I also want to thank the committee who helped put all of this together, as well as all of our sponsors. Peyton, our chair, who does not need any introduction to any of the communities present today, actually, will say some words in a moment. But before that, Pascal Marty will address us, who's the director of the Maison Française, and who's actually the main reason why I'm based here, because Pascal opened the doors of the Maison to the hard social sciences and to interdisciplinary work. Thank you, Pascal, for welcoming us, and take it away.
Thank you very much, Bary. Welcome to the Maison Française. We are very glad to have all of you here during these 3 days. Well, again, I want to thank our partners. Their logos are here, but really an immense thank you to all of them. So the purpose of this conference is, as you know, an article published in January 1950. And it has been often said, but it's very remarkable and very beautiful that one page of a mathematician, after quite some years of being not really truly appreciated, has changed the course of so many fields and several subjects. And when looking at the paper this morning, I realized that, well, as it is the rule for the American Academy of Science, that the paper was communicated by a certain Solomon Lefschetz. And I look at who Solomon Lefschetz was. And he was a Russian-born mathematician whose family had moved to the US himself had moved to the US in 1905. But before that, his family had moved to Paris. And indeed, Solomon Lefschetz has a degree of engineering at the École Centrale de Paris. So this is one more reason to be really glad to host this conference here today in the Maison Française. Because, as you know, the Maison Française is a French public research center in Oxford. And so our main goal is to build bridges between the French scientific research and the UK, and especially the Oxford scientific research. So this is why I'm so glad to have this conference this week. Nash equilibrium and game theory has touched so many fields, including economics, the social sciences more broadly, and computer science. And it is very fitting that now, today, we are hosting this event on what I may call a disciplinary neutral ground, because at the Maison Française we have research from the humanities to the social science and even interdisciplinary research. So it is very fitting that we are hosting this event today. And I'm confident that this conference will be, for us, a milestone in the development of more research in quantitative social sciences and computer science at the Maison. So an immense thank you to Bary Pradelski for organizing this conference and making this event possible. I'm so glad to say that we will have today, arriving later, Franck Lecoq from Paris. Franck Lecoq will be representing the Division of Humanities and Social Sciences of CNRS, and we are glad he can come. But I have spoken already too much, and I wish all of you a nice, excellent, and fruitful conference.
Well, welcome everyone. I hardly need to say anything to this audience about Nash equilibrium. We're celebrating, of course, as you know, the publication of his paper Equilibrium Points in N-Person Games, which is a paper of 1 page. I'll come back to that. The idea has been extraordinarily influential, not only in economics, but throughout now the social sciences, and indeed biology, and indeed computer science, and distributed control. All of these subjects are represented here in one form or another at this conference, and we've been very deliberate in choosing speakers that represented a wide range of applications of Nash equilibrium. But I want to recall that it wasn't always so. Let's review some history. Years ago, Tom Schelling gave a wonderful talk called "What Do Economists Know?" Well, it turned out, in his view, not very much, but he emphasized input-output matrix, balance of payments, national income accounts, not a word about Nash equilibrium. And in fact, it really wasn't for many years until Nash equilibrium entered our thinking, and it became what economists know. It's now part of our toolkit, our knowledge, and deserves an important place, but it took a long time, from 1950 really until, let us say, even the 1980s, for it to really gain any reasonable degree of acceptance within economics. I looked it up. Paul Samuelson's magisterial economic analysis book, which was taught everywhere, updated in 1983, has not one mention of Nash or Nash equilibrium. In fact, it doesn't even mention game theory, which is another story. Now, when he first proposed the idea, there were, of course, detractors right from the beginning, and as a matter of fact, one of them was John von Neumann. John von Neumann, according to Martin Schubeck, said to Nash that he really didn't like the idea very much because it was too individualistic, to which Nash replied, "Well, that's the American way." So it's become an important tool, key tool in analysis. But I want to say that in some sense, equilibrium puts the cart before the horse. Equilibrium of what? Equilibrium means a balance of forces. It refers to a process, a rest point of a process, let's say. What process? Yes. What forces? So to some extent, the idea of the solution came before we were very clear about what the dynamics would be that produced an equilibrium. Now, in fact, Nash himself pointed to this issue, though he didn't flesh it out, by saying maybe we can think of this idea as resulting from an empirical accumulation of knowledge about what other people are doing and responses by a population of agents who are learning, in some sense, from empirical experience over time. Now, we never elaborated on that so-called mass action model, and it lay dormant for many years. In fact, it didn't even appear in several of the early published versions of the paper. But of course, we now know that, in fact, this discussion of disequilibrium, of the dynamics that produce, well, either Nash equilibrium or other forms of equilibrium, such as correlated equilibrium, coarse-correlated equilibrium, and other notions, is really become a central focus in recent years of research attention and has been, will be well represented in this group of talks. So I do want to sort of say, well, Nash even got that part right too, though he didn't, that is, that you had to have a broader theory, not just an equilibrium theory. I guess to conclude my remarks would be simply that although Nash equilibrium is the cornerstone of economics and now has become a cornerstone of a lot of subjects, it wasn't always that way. It took time, often does with important ideas. And I also want to just call attention to an important feature of Nash, not only the contribution itself, but his style, the simplicity, the parsimony, the ability in one page to put down the essential idea and outline its solution, meaning existence theorem, is a truly amazing thing. Could that be published in any of our leading journals today, or maybe even not so leading journals? I don't know. I think we live in times that don't encourage that kind of simple but key idea. So I want to pay tribute not only to Nash's actual contribution, but to his good taste. With that, we'll see in subsequent days how fruitful, extraordinarily fruitful, this simple idea has proved to be. So, thank you very much.